My dear women, the proper definition of Hebrew women delivery is when you are alive and your baby is alive too, no matter the route you decide to take, be in caesarean section or natural delivery. This is a story of Ifoma. Ifoma was a kind and gentle woman who loved her husband Chike very much. They had been married for 6 years, and in all those 6 years, there was something they had both longed for: a baby. Every time Ifeoma looked at other mothers carrying their babies or saw children running around in the village, her heart would ache. She wanted to experience the joy of holding her own baby in her arms. Chike also felt the same. He loved Ifeoma deeply, but he knew how much she wanted a child. Every year they hoped for a good news, but every year they were disappointed. Still, they prayed and believed that one day God will answer their prayers. Ifeoma would sometimes spend hours praying. She would say, "God, please bless us with a child. I know you hear me." And after praying, she would wipe her tears and smile, believing that her prayers would soon be answered. Chike too never gave up. He always encouraged Ifeoma, telling her that one day they will become parents. One bright morning, Ifeoma woke up feeling different. There was something about that day that felt special, but she couldn't quite understand what it was. She noticed that her body felt strange, her stomach was unsettled, and she felt tired. "I feel different today," she told Chike with a smile. "Maybe I should see a doctor again." Chike agreed and immediately took her to the hospital. After running some tests, the doctor came back with a smile. "Congratulations, Ifeoma, you are pregnant." Ifeoma's eyes filled with joy, tears. She couldn't believe it. After 6 long years of waiting and praying, God has finally answered her prayers. She looked at Chike, who was as overjoyed, and they hugged each other tightly. "I can't believe it," Ifeoma whispered. "We are going to have a baby, and soon I will be a mother." The following Sunday, Ifeoma and Chike couldn't wait to share the good news with everyone at their church. As they entered the church, they were greeted by smiling faces. They told their pastor and their friends about their pregnancy, and everyone was so happy for them. They have all waited for a day like this to come. The pastor gathered everyone around and prayed for Ifeoma and her baby. He spoke words of blessings and said, "You will deliver like the Hebrew women in the Bible, quickly and without any problems." Everyone in the church cheered and praised God for this miracle. Ifeoma felt even more at peace after the prayer. She believed that everything would go smoothly. The pastor's words filled her with confidence. She had waited so long for this blessing, and now she trusted that God would take care of everything about her and her baby. As Ifeoma's belly grew, so did the attention she received from the villagers. Everyone was excited for her, but there were also whispers. Some people would gather in small groups and talk about her. "I wonder if she will have this baby safely," one woman said. "What if something goes wrong?" After waiting for so long, another person asked. These whispers sometimes reached Ifeoma's ears, but she didn't let them bother her. She had faith in God, and she believed in the pastor's words. She didn't want to think about anything negative. All she focused on was keeping herself healthy and preparing for the arrival of her baby. However, Chike was more concerned. He had heard the whispers too, and they had made him anxious. He didn't want anything to happen to Ifeoma or their baby. But every time he brought up these worries, Ifeoma will assure him, saying, "Don't worry, my love. God is with us. Everything will be fine." One evening, as Ifeoma sat on the couch, she felt something inside her belly. At first, it was a light flutter like a butterfly, but then it became stronger, a tiny kick. Her heart swelled with joy. She placed her hands on her belly and felt the baby move again. "Chike!" she called excitedly. Come and feel this. Chike rushed over and placed his hands on her belly. He too felt the baby kick and he couldn't stop smiling. Our baby is strong, he said proudly. They laughed and spent the evening talking to the baby, imagining what it would be like when the family finally got to hold their little one. They started preparing for the baby's arrival. Chike painted the baby's room, and Ifeoma picked out soft blankets and tiny clothes. They were both excited. Every day, Ifeoma would talk to her baby, telling it stories and singing lullabies. As Ifeoma's due date drew closer, she went for another checkup at the hospital. The doctor looked concerned as he examined her. After the checkup, he sat down with Ifeoma and Chike. Ifeoma, the doctor began, your baby is very big. I am concerned that it might be difficult for you to deliver naturally. You may need a cesarean section to make both you and the baby safe. Ifeoma frowned. A cesarean section? She asked. But I want to deliver naturally. My pastor told me I would deliver like the Hebrew women. The doctor smiled kindly, but shook his head. Sometimes things don't go the way we plan. I want you to be safe, Ifeoma. A cesarean section is not a bad thing. It could save your life and your baby's life. Ifeoma nodded, but deep down, she didn't want to think about surgery. She believed that God would make everything okay. She thanked the doctor and left with Chike, her mind filled with thoughts. As they drove home, Chike couldn't hide his worry. My love, he said gently, maybe we should listen to the doctor. I don't want anything to happen to you or the baby. Ifeoma sighed. She knew Chike was trying to protect her, but she didn't want to believe that she needed surgery. Chike, I believe in God, she said softly. I believe I can deliver naturally, just like the pastor said. Chike didn't want to argue with her, but his heart was heavy. He loved Ifeoma so much, and he didn't want to lose her. But he knew how strong her faith was, and he didn't want to make her feel like he didn't believe in her or in God's plan. That night, Chike stayed up, praying silently for Ifeoma's safety. He didn't know what the future held, but he hoped that everything would turn out okay. The next day, Ifeoma went to visit the pastor again. She told him about the doctor's advice and how he had recommended a cesarean section. The pastor smiled warmly and placed his hand on Ifeoma's shoulder. Don't be afraid, Ifeoma, he said. God has promised you that you will deliver safely. You are a strong woman. You will deliver like the Hebrew women, just as I said. There is no need to panic. There is no need for surgery. God will be with you during your delivery. Ifeoma felt comforted by the pastor's words. She trusted him and believed that everything would be okay. The pastor has always been there for her, praying for her and guiding her. She left the church feeling reassured and ready for what was to come. As days passed, Ifeoma couldn't help but feel a small flicker of fear in her heart. What if something went wrong? What if she couldn't deliver naturally? But every time these thoughts crept in, she pushed them away. No, she told herself, I will deliver like the Hebrew women. God is with me. But the fear didn't completely disappear. It stayed at the back of her mind, especially at night when everywhere was quiet and she was alone with her thoughts. She thought about what the doctor had said and what her pastor had promised. She didn't want to disappoint anyone, but most of all, she didn't want it to seem as if she didn't trust God. What will people say if I had surgery? She thought. They would think that I'm less a woman and I don't believe in God's power. One bright morning, Ifeoma woke up and felt a sharp pain in her belly. She knew it was time. The baby was coming. She called out to Chike, and they quickly gathered their things and rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, the nurses welcomed her and prepared her for delivery. Ifeoma was nervous, but she was also excited. Soon, she will meet her baby. Chike held her hand and whispered words of encouragement. You are doing great, he said with a smile. Our baby will soon be here. Ifeoma smiled back, but deep down, she was starting to feel anxious. The pain was getting stronger, and she didn't know if she could handle it. As the hours passed, Ifeoma found herself growing more and more exhausted. The labor pains were intense, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't seem to push the baby out. Her body felt weak, and she struggled to catch her breath. The nurses and midwives kept encouraging her to push, but each time she tried, nothing seems to happen. Sweat dripped from her forehead as she gripped Chike's hand tightly. You could see the pain and exhaustion in her eyes, and it broke his heart. He wanted to do something, anything to help her, but he felt helpless. Ify, you are strong, Chike whispered, using his affectionate name for her. I know you can do this. Ifeoma nodded weakly, trying to summon the strength to push again, but the baby wasn't moving. She could feel the worry growing inside her, but she kept reminding herself of her pastor's words, I will deliver like the Hebrew women. She repeated to herself over and over again. She couldn't allow fear to take over. Meanwhile, the doctor came in to check on her progress. His face was serious as he examined her. After a few moments, he turned to Chike and the nurses. We have a big problem, the doctor said quietly. The baby is not in the right position, and Ifeoma is too tired to keep pushing. We need to act quickly. Chike's heart sank. He had been dreading this moment. What do we need to do, doctor? He asked with his voice shaking. The doctor sighed. We need to take her into the surgery for a cesarean section. It is the only solution for her to deliver safely now. When Ifeoma heard the doctor's voice, her heart raced. Surgery? That was exactly what she had been trying to avoid. She had always believed that she would deliver naturally like the Hebrew women, just as the pastor has promised her. But now, faced with the doctor's urgent plea, she wasn't sure of what to do. I can't do surgery, Ifeoma whispered, shaking her head. I have come this far. I will deliver naturally. I have to. Chike knelt by her side, holding her hand tightly. He could see the fear and doubt in her eyes. Ifeoma, please, he said softly. The doctor knows what's best. We need to think about your safety and that of the baby too. But Ifeoma couldn't shake the fear of what people would say if she had surgery. In her heart, she believed she wouldn't be letting everyone down, including the pastor, if she didn't deliver the way she had been told she would deliver. Her mind flashed back to the pastor's words, the promise that God had made through him. No, she said firmly, though her voice was weak. I won't do the surgery. The doctor exchanged a worried glance with Chike. He knew time was running out. Ifeoma, I understand your fear, but this is a medical urgency, the doctor said gently. If you don't act now, you and baby will be in serious danger. But Ifeoma shook her head again. I will deliver naturally, she whispered. Her mind was set, even though deep down, fear had started to creep in. The nurses looked at each other, unsure of what to do. They couldn't force Ifeoma to have a surgery, but they were deeply concerned about her and the baby. Time was slipping away, and Ifeoma's strength was fading with every passing minute. Chike felt like his world was falling apart. He didn't know what to do. He loved Ifeoma with all his heart, and he didn't want to lose her. He also couldn't bear the thought of something happening to their baby. He had been so excited to meet their child, and now it felt like the dream was slipping away. Ifeoma, please, he begged again, his voice breaking. I need you to be safe. We can't let something happen to you or the baby. Please listen to the doctor. But Ifeoma was determined. She was holding on to her faith, and she couldn't shake the feeling that surgery would mean she had failed. She couldn't face the thought of the people in the village saying that she hadn't trusted God enough, or that she has gone against the will of her pastor, and that she wasn't woman enough. Chike, she whispered, tears in her eyes. I have to trust in God. I have to believe that He will see me through this. Chike's heart broke as he watched her struggle with this decision. He understood her faith. He too believed in God's plan, but he also believed that sometimes God uses doctors to help people. He didn't know how to convince her that it was okay to trust both her faith and doctor's advice. Desperate, Chike turned to the doctor. Is there anything else he can do? Is there any other way? He asked, his voice trembling. The doctor shook his head sadly. I'm afraid the situation is too dangerous now. The baby isn't moving in the right position, and Ifeoma is too weak to keep pushing. We need to act quickly. One of the nurses, sensing the tension in the room, had an idea. Maybe we should call the pastor, she suggested. If he speaks to her, maybe she'll feel comfortable agreeing to the surgery. Chike nodded quickly. Yes, please call him. The nurse stepped out of the room and made the call. She explained the situation to the doctor, hoping that he would encourage Ifeoma to accept the surgery. When the pastor answered, his voice was calm and confident. Do not fear, the pastor said over the phone. I have prayed for Ifeoma, and I believe she will deliver like the Hebrew. There is no need for surgery. God will see her through. When the nurse relayed the message to Ifeoma, she felt a surge of relief. The pastor still believed in her, and that gave her strength. You see, she said softly to Chike, everything will be fine. The pastor has faith in me. I just need to keep believing. Chike's heart sank. He didn't know how to argue with her faith, but he was terrified of losing her. He wanted to trust that everything will be okay, but he could not see that Ifeoma was getting weaker by the minute. Ifeoma, I love you, he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. Please don't leave me. The doctors and nurse could see that Ifeoma was fading fast. She was losing strength, and the baby still hadn't moved in the right position. The medical team knew they had to act quickly if there was any hope of saving her and the baby. Ifeoma, the doctor said gently, trying one last time to reason with her. I know you have strong faith, but we are running out of time. If we don't do the surgery now, there is real chance that you or the baby or both of you might not survive. Ifeoma's eyes closed, tears streaming down her face. She was exhausted, physically and emotionally. She had been holding on to her belief for so long, but now, in this moment, she wasn't sure if she had made the right choice. She wanted to trust God, but she also didn't want to risk her life or that of her baby's life. I don't know what to do, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm scared. She squeezed Chike's hand tightly, his own eyes filled with tears. Ifeoma, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to trust the doctors too. Please let them help you. Ifeoma looked up at Chike, seeing the fear and love in his eyes. She wanted to stay with him. She wanted to raise their children together. But her eyes were torn between her faith and the reality of the situation. Ifeoma gathered all her strength she had left. She looked at the doctor and the nurse, then back to Chike. One more push, she said softly. Just let me try one more time. The doctor hesitated, knowing how risky it was, but seeing the determination in Ifeoma's eyes, he nodded. Okay, Ifeoma, one more push, but if it doesn't work, we need to do surgery. Ifeoma nodded. She took a deep breath, feeling the pain coursing through her body. With every ounce of strength she had left, she pushed. The room was filled with sound of her labored breathing and the encouragement of the nurses, but nothing happened. The baby still wasn't moving. Ifeoma collapsed back onto the bed, her body completely drained. She couldn't do it anymore. She had given everything she had, but it wasn't enough. The doctor rushed to prepare for surgery, but time had run out. Chike was standing outside the room, his heart pounding with fear. He could hear the urgency in doctors' voices as they moved quickly around the farmer, trying to save her and the baby. Please, God, Chike prayed silently. Don't take them from me. Don't let this be the end. But moments later, the doctor emerged from the room, his face pale and full of sorrow. Chike's heart sank as he saw the doctor's expression. It was the look he had feared, the look of defeat. Chike rushed towards the doctor, his voice trembling. What happened? Is she okay? Is the baby okay? The doctor gently placed a hand on Chike's shoulder, trying to steady him. I'm so sorry, Chike, the doctor said softly. We tried everything we could, but Ifoma didn't make it. And the baby? The baby didn't survive either. Chike's world collapsed in an instant. It was as if the air had been sucked out of the room. His knees buckled and he fell on the ground, sobbing uncontrollable. How could he have lost both his wife and his child in one tragic moment? No! Chike screamed, his voice raw with pain. No, this can't be real. She was supposed to be okay. The baby, she was supposed to deliver like the Hebrew women. The doctor knelt beside Chike, his own eyes filled with sorrow. I know this is hard, Chike. I am truly sorry. Ifeoma fought so hard, but sometimes things don't go the way we hope. We tried everything, but her body couldn't just handle the stress anymore. Chike couldn't comprehend this. His mind was spinning, and all he could see was Ifeoma's beautiful face. Her smile, her laughter, her hope for the future, and now she was gone, gone forever. The news of Ifeoma passing spread quickly through the village. People were shocked and heartbroken. They had all prayed for her. They had believed in her strength, and now they are left with the pain of her loss. The pastor who has been so confident that Ifeoma would deliver naturally was also devastated. He visited Chike to offer him his condolence, but there was a heavy silence between them. Chike's grief was overwhelming, and he didn't know how to feel about the pastor's words now. The promise of delivering like the Hebrew men had been repeated over and over, but in the end, it didn't save Ifeoma. I'm sorry for your loss, the pastor said quietly. I believe with all my heart that God will see her through this. I don't understand why things turned out this way. Chike sat in silence, staring at the floor. His heart was full of anger, confusion, and pain. He had trusted the pastor's words. Ifeoma had trusted those words. And now they were both gone, his wife and his baby. What had gone wrong? I don't know what to believe anymore, Chike whispered, his voice broken. We trusted God, we trusted you, but she's gone. Why? The pastor didn't have an answer. He could only bow his head and pray. But even his prayer felt empty in the face of such tragedy. Ifeoma's funeral was a sober affair. The entire village came to pay their last respect. She had been loved by many because she was so kind, and her loss was felt deeply by everyone. Chike stood by her grave, his heart shattered into a million places. The dreams they had shared, the future they had planned, all of it was buried along with her. Women from the village cried and confronted him one after the other. They had seen Ifeoma as a symbol of hope, a woman who had patiently waited for a child and whose faith had been unwavering. But now they couldn't understand why such tragedy will happen to such a good woman. Some people whispered that it was a test from God, while others questioned whether the pastor's word had been so confident. But none of the whispers could bring Ifeoma back. Chike stood quietly at the grave, his eyes fixed on the ground. He felt numb, as though all the emotion inside him had been drained away. He couldn't cry anymore. He had no tears left. All he could do was stand there, lost in the emptiness of his grief. In the weeks that followed, Chike struggled to find meaning in what had happened. He went through each day in a daze trying to make sense of the loss. His home felt empty without Ifeoma's presence, and the nursery they had prepared for their baby was a painful reminder of the life they had lost. He thought about Ifeoma's fate, the way she had held on to the belief that she would deliver naturally. He thought about the pressure she had felt from the people around her, the whispers of what others would say if she didn't have a natural birth. And most of all, he thought about the role the pastor's words had played in her decision. Chike visited the pastor one last time. He sat down in the small office, his hands folded in his lap. The pastor looked at him with sorrow in his eyes, knowing that there was nothing he could say to ease the pain Chike was carrying. I believe in you, Chike said quietly. Ifeoma believed you. But she's gone now. I don't blame you, but I need to understand. Why did this happen? The pastor sighed deeply, his voice filled with regret. Chike, I don't have all the answers. I believe with all my heart that Ifeoma will deliver safely. I prayed for her. I trusted in God's plan. But sometimes things happen that we can't explain. I'm sorry for what you have lost. Chike nodded slowly. I know you meant well, but sometimes I wonder if you put too much pressure on her. She was so afraid of what people would think if she didn't deliver naturally. Maybe, maybe she should have listened to the doctor. The pastor's eyes filled with tears. Maybe you are right. Sometimes we forget that God works through doctors too. We are so focused on our faith that we ignore the help that is right in front of us. Chike stood up and shook his head. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that Ifeoma was strong. She believed in her faith, and I always love her for that. The only problem was trusting you too much. But I also think we need to be careful about the expectation we place on people. As Chike left the pastor's office, he felt a small sense of closure. His heart will always carry the pain of losing Ifeoma and their child. But he had learned something important through this tragedy. Faith was powerful, but it was also important to listen to the wisdom of others, especially when it comes to the matter of life and death. In the end, Ifeoma's story became a lesson for the village. People began to talk about the importance of balancing faith with medical advice. They realized that trusting God didn't mean ignoring the help that doctors could provide. And while Ifeoma's life had been tragically cut short, her story became a reminder that sometimes faith and science are needed to work together to bring the best outcome. As the months passed, Chike found ways to honor Ifeoma's memory. He continued to live, carrying her love with him in his heart. And though the pain of losing her never truly went away, he found comfort knowing that her story had touched the lives of many in the village. The village never forgot Ifeoma. Her strength, her faith, her love for her family remained a shining example for all who knew her. And through her, they learned the importance of making wise decisions, even in the face of pressure and expectation. Thank you for listening to this wonderful story. I hope you all learn a lesson from this story. To you listening, please be kind with your words. Don't put pressure on people. Nobody is less of a woman when they give birth through cesarean section. Don't put unnecessary expectations of people. Don't be a reason why someone's life is cut short. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe for more